Hi, good day. My name is Ronaldo Atwell, and today I'll be presenting on the biomechanics of the skeletal muscle, right? So we get into it right away. The objectives today is the structure of the muscle, the functions of the skeletal muscle, the muscular and force relationship, and the muscular strength, power, and endurance. So basically my objective today is to try and break down certain terms and break down the muscle in a way so that someone new to the subject could understand in simpler terms, right? So we want to look at the characteristics of the skeletal muscle firstly, right? So the skeletal muscle has excitability, contractility, extensibility, and elasticity. The excitability in the skeletal muscles comes from being able to pick up chemicals, and it could generate an action potential which could create change in the muscle, right, or movement. Contractility is the muscle's ability to forcefully shorten when it is stimulated. Extensibility is the muscle's ability to stretch, and elasticity is the muscle ability to recoil or return to its normal length after being stretched, right? So the muscle or the muscle belly is made up of several different components, right? So the different components that make up the muscle belly, it have more than these here on the slide, but I'll get into it just now, right? So it have the muscle belly, which is wrapped by the epimysium. Then it have the fascicles wrapped by the perimysium, the muscle fibers wrapped by the endomysium, and the myofibrils, right? So I have some graphs on this side here, just some drawings that I did, so you'll have a better understanding of the micro part of the muscle, the myofibrils and the sarcomere and whatnot, right? So I'll get it here just now. Okay, so hopefully you're able to see from there. And so here we have a simple skeletal muscle, and what we do, we make a transverse cut so you're able to see inside the muscle, right? So this is called a muscle belly, and the muscle belly has a dense connective tissue called the epimysium, and then there's a bunch of different circles in there, the big circles called fascicles, right? So these fascicles are also covered with a dense connective tissue which is called the perimysium. Yes, the perimysium. Inside the fascicle we have a number of muscle fibers which are also covered by another tissue called endomysium, and we'll go deeper into the muscle fiber at a micro level so you'll understand the different parts of the muscle, right? Okay, so the other components of the skeletal muscle we have at micro level are the sarcomere, the sarcoplasmic reticulum, the thin filament, the thick filament, the Z-disc, the M-line, and the H-zone. So the sarcoplasmic reticulum, right? So this is actually good for storing calcium. Then we have the thin filament, which is made up of actin. These connect to the Z-disc through a protein called nebulin, right? So when the muscle contracts, the thin filament will actually enter the H-zone. Also, Z-disc to Z-disc will make up one sarcomere. Then we have the H-zone, which has the M-line, and the M-line consists of different proteins which connects a protein called titin to the thick filament, right? And the thick filament, the darker line, fill up with myosin. Okay, so types of muscle fibers, right? So there are different types of muscle fibers and all have a different role and function. Type 1, type 2A, and type 2B. The type 1 slow oxidative, this has low ATPase concentration has high amounts of mitochondria. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. This would break down nutrients such as amino acids, fats, glucose, and turn it into energy. This process is cellular respiration and requires oxygen, right? So the type 1 also has small diameter, slow contractile speed. So because of the low ATPase concentration on the myosin, it will actually have a slower to actually connect and disconnect from the actin. The myosin would connect and disconnect from the actin much slower, which would create a slower power stroke, right? Slow fatigue rate and gets recruited first. So the slow fatigue rate is because of the slow contractile speed and the low ATPase concentration, right? So the fiber would take long to get tired. The type 2A fast glycolytic oxidative. This has high ATPase concentration, high amounts of mitochondria. So again, oxygen is being delivered, intermediate diameter, fast contraction speed. Because of the high ATPase concentration, the power stroke is much faster. So it creates a fast contraction speed. Moderate fatigue rate, right? So this fiber could go on for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, right? And it is also recruited second. The last muscle fiber, type 2B, has high ATPase concentration. Again, this one shows fast connection between the myosin and a fast power stroke. Low amount of mitochondria. So low amount of mitochondria would show less oxygen, right? Large diameter, fast contraction speed. But this is understandable because of the high ATPase concentration, high fatigue rate. So this fiber will fatigue very quickly because of the high ATPase concentration and the low amount of mitochondria. This fiber would fatigue in like 10-15 seconds, right? These are also recruited last. So the roles of muscle, right? So before we move on, you just want to understand the agonist and antagonist. So the agonist is this acts to cause a movement. So for example, when you're doing a bicep curl, the agonist muscle is the bicep, right? The antagonist acts to slow or stop a movement. So this will be against the agonist. So if you're doing a bicep curl, the muscle that is against the bicep will be the tricep, right? Easy. The stabilizers, these are the smaller muscles in the body that support the body and other muscles, right? And the neutralizers prevent motion, so they act to cancel an unwanted movement. Active and passive insufficiency. So these can be seen in muscle that crosses more than one joint. The active insufficiency, this is the failure to produce force when slack. The passive insufficiency, the restriction of joint range of motion when fully stretched. So after doing some research, I developed a graph that I think would simplify active and passive insufficiency. Okay, so there's force and length on the XY axis, right? So I believe if this is a sarcomere, that the length, if it is contracted too much, the force, you wouldn't be able to produce much force, right? So if it lengthens too much as well, the muscle becomes insufficient again. So up here is where the muscle would be most suited to do activity, right? To produce force. So here, the muscle insufficient, that's active insufficiency. The lengthened one, passive insufficiency. The relationship between force and velocity. So velocity, this is the rate at which the muscle is shortening or lengthening, and muscle force, this is when skeletal muscle produce energy in response to a stimulus, for example resistance, right? So again, I have a next graph, and I think the graph would be able to simplify it for a better understanding, right? Okay, so in this relationship, you can see the velocity here at 0. Going this way would make it positive, this way negative, right? So here is the isometric limit. There's a concentric contraction, eccentric contraction, right? So if this is the limit, let's say there's 50 pounds. If the force go down to about 40 pounds, the velocity would begin to raise, right? The force go down to, let's say, 5 pounds, the velocity would raise a lot more. Eccentrically now, this is where you're bringing down the hand, when you're contracting, right? So if this is the limit, 50 pounds, and you add, let's say, 60 pounds, you will be able to slowly control the 60 pounds when bringing it down. So the velocity will be going down negatively slowly when you bring it down. But however, if you add 100 pounds, that could result in bringing down his hands quickly. The eccentric contraction will be done quickly. So basically the relationship is less force would result in more velocity concentrically. Eccentrically, however, more force would result in more velocity. So the electromechanical delay, this is basically the time between the arrival of a stimulus and the tension developed in the muscle, right? So for example, when the muscle is activated, before the muscle actually contracts, this is the electromechanical delay. So for example, we could use this iron here, where I am the muscle, the iron itself is the bone, and this cord is the tendon. So when I am activated, I would pull on this tendon until the tendon becomes like this. And when the time that I take to pull this tendon before the bone actually moves, that is the electromechanical delay. The muscular strength, power, and endurance, right? So measuring muscular strength. So this could be described as the maximum amount of force needed to lift or move an object, right? So an easy way to calculate the muscular torque is by force multiplied by distance. The factors that affect the muscular strength are the distance between the muscle attachment to bone and center, the movement arms of the muscles crossing the joint, the angle of the muscles attachment, the tension generating capability of the muscles, right? Muscular power. This is the rate of torque production, the product of net torque and angular, the product of muscular force, and the velocity of muscle shortening. Muscular endurance is basically the ability of the muscle to hold tension over a period of time. So for example, doing a plank for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, you could say this person have a lot of muscular endurance, right? The end. Thank you, and that's the end of my presentation.